What's going on, Boo Bob? If you are someone who is in the process of calling in your abundance, you are in your manifestation bag, you are someone that has a dream or has a life that you perceive is meant for you to live. You're just looking at your life right now and you're just like, nah, this ain't it, right? Like you want something real, you want something that's for you. Stick around because I want to talk about the connection between abundance and lack, right? Um, I think in a world where there's so much information on how to become abundant, and I mean, like, for years now, we've had books on it. We've had, amazing coaches in the past talk about how to really reach your full potential and receive a life of abundance. I think now more than ever, it is talked about. It is, the number one thing that is like important to everyone. Everyone is talking about energy. Everyone is talking about abundance. Everyone is striving to, have wealth and to live their best life. Everyone wants to make the best money. And I'm right there with you, baby. I'm right there with you. You feel me? It is something that for the past, I would say 5 years has really been on the top of my brain, abundance, right? To give you a little background, I'm someone who has always gotten through. Okay. I've always found a way through life because my life was not an easy life. I did not come from, or I do not come from a lot of money. I don't come from a lot of opportunity. I don't really come from a lot, right? But I also don't come from the worst either. However, I have experienced some really, really low lows in my life. I really say this all the time. There's not a single person that can tell me a story that I can't somewhat relate to. I'm sure that's true for you. And if it's not, you know, I think on some level we can all sympathize and empathize with one another. But for me, I used to look at my life for a long time. I actually had a lot of guilt and shame around my life because I was just like, I don't come from the worst of the worst, but I also don't come from the best of the best. And no matter how hard I try, no matter how hard I strive, no matter what I set my goals out to be, it just seemed like I could just never really reach any type of goals. I couldn't get there. I couldn't make it happen, or things will start to happen for me. Everything is looking so good, and I'll have these really high highs and then just go down really low. And so back in like 2019 to 2020, I started to really apply myself. I just wanted to change my life because things were crazy. I mean, I was going through multiple things at once. I was going through, hard times on earth. I was somebody who had these like psychic abilities and powers. So my life, I would be living in two realities at once. I will be telling that story very soon. So a lot of times the life that I was living, just it was hard for me to live it. It was hard for me to really grasp really great things because I would constantly be in this ebb and flow of like really great things, and then I lose, or I'm winning, and then things are not going well for me. And I experienced a lot of the things that weren't going well for me. But over time, as I got older, I started to realize like a lot of the stuff that I went through that was at my lowest, the stuff that, when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, that was me in lack mindset, scarcity energy. I mean, all the problems, I had them, right? When I looked at myself from that position or from that standpoint, I would just be like, oh, wow, I just like lacked a lot my whole life. I lacked friends. I lacked money. I mean, money especially, right? I lacked, opportunities. I lacked romantic partners. I lacked so many different things in my life. And I just used to ask myself, like, why, right? I would compare myself to others. I would try to figure out what exactly is going on. But in 2019 to 2020, I really doubled down. I was like, I need to figure out my life. I need to figure out what I'm doing, where I'm going. And so I did what, everybody tells you to do, which is, get into your career. I always felt, the need to be an entrepreneur. I jumped in. And so I became an entrepreneur. I started life coaching and I loved it. And it was something that, I was just like, it was going well for such a long time. I was just like killing it. You know what I mean? Like I loved it. Okay. Then I started to pop off on TikTok, and then I popped off on Instagram. So now, I'm retaining some of the work that I've been putting out, and things are filling up, and then they shot right back down again, and then right back up again, and then down again, and then up again. Right. So all this up, down, I just like I realized that when I would get to a certain level of low, it would destroy me. Like when I climb up, I'm so proud of myself and I could like really get on top of my game. But when I get back down, oh my goodness, like I didn't know how to handle the downs. Okay. Like the downs really got to me because to be putting in all this effort, putting in all this work, changing my life, being honest with myself, doing a lot of the healing work. I don't know if you've been doing some healing work, but if you understand the healing process, you understand it is not easy. It is vulnerable. When the ego starts to break, it feels like your world is breaking, right? So I'm putting in all this effort and all this work, breaking down my ego, healing like there's no tomorrow, doing everything I possibly can to really get myself on track. And it would seem like it's working, and then things would just fall to shit, you know? Excuse my language, but we got to talk real talk. And over the past 2 years, where I got to my lowest low of all lows, right? This is where I became homeless, which I chose to be, right? We'll get into that story at some point in time, but I became homeless. Business wasn't going well. Everything, I had no family anymore because I walked away from them due to some really, really tough things, tough, real, what's it called? What's that thing called? Discoveries, right? That we couldn't work through at one point. Just toughness, okay? It just, life got really, really tough. It's almost like 2023. I think that was the depth of my healing, the depth of things. I think for me, that was my Saturn return. So I was going through some things. And for the last 2 years, I've been experiencing some things. But it was interesting because while I was that low, I also was experiencing a lot of miracles, a lot of highs, a lot of blessings. I was one of the people to actually have like a following, and I had a lot of people have my back, even in the midst of losing almost everything that I've ever owned and had in my life, right? So it was an interesting time, but it helped me to see life from a different perspective. And I remember there was one day when I was going through it. I think my sister and I, we haven't slept in days. We finally got into a hotel room, and I remember one day, like, we got into that room and it was a nice big room. We were so happy to be inside. We were right near the mall, so there was more than enough food to eat. I mean, it was one of those like moments where it felt like a blessing. It felt like a miracle, the fact that we were inside again, because after spending like 4 or 5 days sleeping outside and stuff like that. So it was something that felt so good. And I was so genuinely like grateful. And something happened. Okay. Something happened where I decided to leave the room, and I randomly was just walking and I just started recording a video. And it's a video I never posted. At this point, I was doing a lot of tarot on Instagram and stuff like that. So I was only showcasing a very small portion of who I am and what I could do. And I recorded this video and I was like, should I post this? Should I not? And I was like, and I chose not to because I was scared. Okay. I was scared. But basically in that video, I was just like, what if all of this lack and all of this struggle isn't a bad thing? Like, what if it is so incredibly intentional? Like, God is doing something here. Like, there's something good about all of this lack and all of this downfall and all of these problems. Like, the way my life has consistently brought me back to this spot. What if there's something fantastic that's happening here? And it was interesting. I went into it and I remember, like, listening to the video back and just being like, there's no way I'm posting this. Like, there's no way I'm posting this because I have an abstract way of thinking and I don't necessarily always say what people agree with. And so for years, I very much played it small and I very much played it safe as possible, because for me, I was like, look, I just want to be digestible. I want people to like me. I want to not be the person that is saying crazy things and being, come at by people online that don't even know me, right? So I was just like, let me do the thing that everybody likes. Everybody likes tarot, so let me do tarot, right? But we here. Now I'm in a place where I actually don't care. And I am very much myself, and I've grown a lot and I've experienced a lot. And I'm now going back to that idea. And if you've watched any of my other videos, one of the videos, and a lot, I say it a lot, is lack is the first step to abundance. And I want to get into what that means and what's going on here. So when we look at abundance, that is the goal. That's the thing that we're striving towards. That's where we want to be. And all of us, I mean, all of us, I don't care what abundance looks like to you, because abundance is different for everybody. Abundance for one person can look like a huge mansion, while abundance for somebody else can look like, a nice small villa that they're comfortable in. Abundance is really what you decide it is. However, the meaning of abundance is an excess amount of anything, right? So you are just basically, you're good. You have an abundant amount of whatever it is that you need and or want, right? And you're never at a loss. You're never, ever at a loss with those things, right? But I am a firm believer that before that takes place, there's a step. And this is the step that none of us really like to be in. It's lack. Okay. And I believe that lack is the first step to abundance, because to have a great excess of anything, it kind of has to start with nothing or one thing, right? So let's use the Adam and Eve story. Before there could be all these people on the planet, it had to start with two people, right? Which means there was a lack of people on the planet, right? If we're going to go off of that route, right? Before you can have an excess of fruit or vegetables in your gardens, it started with one seed, two seeds, three seeds, where there was no visible fruit, no visible vegetables in your garden, and then it grew into something completely different, right? Lack is literally the first step. And the one thing that I've been examining in my own life, in the life of just people in general, and in like my clients' lives that I would have one-on-one calls with, I started to look at how no matter what, especially with my clients, I would look at no matter where people are in their lives, right? They all complained about the same thing, right? So for example, I had two completely different clients. One was a man, one was a woman. And the man is killing it, has a beautiful job, is getting paid extremely well. I mean, life is good over there, okay? And then I had a woman who was kind of like freelancing, going job to job, just kind of like making ends meet, had a daughter, is just figuring life out, okay? And both of these people at the exact same time that I'm talking to them would complain about finances. They would complain about how, they need to overcome their debts, or they are so low in certain finances. And they would both have the same kind of scarcity mindset around finances. Granted, they are in two completely different situations, right? The one that was like living their best life, as far as I could see, right? They had the money, they had all that stuff. They were still really, really complaining about finances, really looking at their financial situation and being afraid of their money. Mind you, their job is not in jeopardy. They are, really killing it at work. They're killing it everywhere. But that right there was a genuine concern for them, that they will never be able to pay off their debt, and that like life is too difficult when it comes to their finances. They didn't like to buy stuff for themselves. They were very frugal with their money. Meanwhile, I have someone over here who doesn't have that situation, is actually roommating with someone, doesn't actually have much, is kind of figuring things out, and is also worried about their debts and trying to figure out how to, make ends meet and buy this and buy that. And I'm looking at both of these people and I'm like, literally, we could put one in the energy of abundance and the other one in the energy of lack. We could literally look at both of them and say, if we're talking about money specifically, we could look at both of them and say, wow, one of you is technically on the abundance scale, right? I would say that this person was definitely on the more comfortable rich, right? Like this is somebody who definitely had a lot to work with. And then you had someone who was, on government aid and didn't actually have much to work with. And both of them experienced their lack. Both of them was worried about their lack, was sitting in their lack, and literally experienced the lack. And that's when it kind of started hitting me. And I was like, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how good things got, I would get up there and I would still experience a downfall. I would still experience a problem. I would still experience a part of my life where I lacked. I would still experience, a level of me that feels disinterested, or just like, I'm not fulfilled yet, or whatever the case is, no matter what. Mind you, I would be working towards something, working towards a goal, hit the goal, and still I would find some sort of fall. And I started looking at that, and I'm looking at my clients too, and I'm like, my clients are experiencing the same thing. Some of my clients really, killing it in life. They have, beautiful relationships. I would have the people that are in great relationships and the people that are single complaining about the exact same thing. And it just started to hit me. And I was like, oh, we're doing this abundance thing so wrong. We're looking at abundance so wrong. And I'm not just talking about like money versus not having money, having love versus not having love. I mean that we are looking at abundance as the goal, as a thing that we're striving towards. And in reality, abundance and lack go hand in hand, and we should be looking at it as a cycle and dominating the cycle. Okay. I feel like abundance and lack, literally, you do not experience one without the other. And no matter what, it's a cycle that you're going to continue to have. And what I want to do is I want to talk about how to get through this cycle and consistently move up the ladder instead of feeling like you're in the same place. So I kind of drew a little diagram. I kind of feel like Blue's Clues, right? My handy dandy notebook, except it's not a notebook, right? So we have lack down here. It might be backwards for you, but work with me. And if it's not, then we good. We have lack down here and we have abundance down here. This is what everyone is striving for. Everyone wants abundance. So this is where everyone wants to be on the diagram, right? We want to be up here. And what happens is when we come into this world as babies, this is where we're at. We're up here because we don't know nothing, right? That ignorance is bliss stuff. Sometimes it is. We're right here. But then when life starts to happen, what we don't realize, we're thinking that, oh, I'm abundant. And so therefore life is happening and I'm only supposed to go up. It's this narrow, wide up, right? Or this narrow, wide up, this like narrow path upward, right? We're supposed to just go up from here. The reality is once you get here, this, let's say, is hitting your goal. This is the ultimate fulfillment. This is you just feeling like life is just a-okay. This is your best self yet. That's the best energy that you could possibly be in. Everything is good. So think of it as like, let's use groceries, for example. You just bought groceries, and I mean you just got home and all of the groceries is all over the counter, and you are now in the position of putting it all in the fridge and the freezer. That is the abundance. You have everything you need. You are looking through and you're like, oh my God, we have groceries. Yay. Right? I finally did it. Everything is good. Right? It's that Sunday where you just cleaned the house. You just sat down from cleaning the house. So everything is good. The clothes are washed, laundry's put away, everything smells fresh and fantastic. You clean the litter box. Everything is perfection right now. Ultimate abundance. We're right here. Okay. And what we expect is that from this perfection, things are just only supposed to get better. Things are supposed to only go up, 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 up. But the reality is that one day later, there's going to be a little bit of a mess because now you had dinner. So now you went from here to here. Okay. So although you cleaned everything and the, plates got cleaned or whatever the case is, day 2, you're going to need to clean some more. Day 2, something's going to get dirty. Now, the house still smells fantastic. The house still looks great. You still have a lot of groceries, but now you just took a little bit of those groceries away because now you're in a position where you have to cook. And cooking, in order for you to cook, you have to be willing to get rid of some food. You have to be willing to dirty some plates. You have to be willing to go through all that. You have to be willing to dirty the counters again. You have to be willing to do that, right? And over the course of time, day 1, then we have day 8, then we have day 15, then we have day whatever. And I don't know when you do groceries or when you clean your house or whatever the case is. But what starts to happen is there's a level of things going downward, right? It looks like things are going down. The house is dirty again. And when the house is dirty again, we've gotten to lack. You're in need of detergent. You're in need of dishwashing soap. You're in need of all the things that you need in order for you to clean your house and get back here. That's lack. However, the way we see this is, oh my God, I'm in so much need. Please, somebody help me, right? I don't have enough money to go buy the this, that, and the third. I don't have X, Y, and Z to X, Y, and boo, 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 bop, 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 bop. So what happens is now, instead of seeing this as a direct correlation to this, and the only reason why you're here is because you were here at one point, you're seeing this as a problem, an issue, something that's wrong. And because you're seeing this as something that's wrong, you're actually in a position of telling yourself, oh, I'm in luck. And this is the worst thing ever. And I don't know how I'm going to climb out of it. Now, obviously, there are certain situations, cleaning the house, things of that sort, that are easier. But bear with me. This is what we do in life. Lack is directly correlated to your abundance. The only reason why you got here is because you were here at one point. And this can't stay here because you have to eat. You have to utilize your house. The only way this really stays here is if you were to clean the entire space, do all of the groceries, and don't touch anything. Stop living, right? So now what happens is you're in a position where you're telling yourself, oh, I have two choices here. In my abundance, I can either enjoy my abundance or never touch it, which then at that point, you are in lack if you never touch it, right? So now what happens is because you're naturally doing what it is that you're supposed to do, you're utilizing the things that you bought, you're utilizing your home, you're doing what needs to happen, naturally you're going to get back down to lack where you're going to need to clean again. And what's going to happen is you're going to casually clean again and you're going to come back up the ladder, back to your abundance. This is the cycle. We tend to think that it's just supposed to go, oh, I reached abundance, go up. But the reality is in your new abundance, it's going to go back down. Here's the thing about it going back down. Day one, you got to cook your favorite recipe. That was joyful. Day two or day, I don't know, let's say 3, right? You got to try a brand new recipe. And because you just recently bought the flour and the this and the that, you were able to try it and it was so fun. Day 5, you had the most amazing dinner with you and your significant other. And it was just so fantastic. Day 8, you invited some friends over and some family over and you guys had a blast, a whole pool party. It was literally the best thing, especially because it was just something that wasn't expected. It was so good. Your place getting dirty, your place having to go back down to lack only happened because good things were taking place. Because you went through what you went through. Now, okay, let's say in the midst of this, you had a bad day. Or let's say you went and you had that party. Okay, this is how we get all messed up. You went, you had that party, and in the midst of having that party, you did this thing where you looked around at the end of it, even though you had a blast, you looked around at the end of it and you just kept thinking about how, oh my God, your house is so dirty. You don't know what you're going to do. And this is so tiring because you're the only one that gets to do blah, 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 blah. You cleaned it a few days ago and it's already so dirty and this is the worst. So now what happens is this energy starts to feel like this energy so fast. So now it feels like this is always happening to you. Do you see what I'm saying? And what happens is because already with you just going down just a little bit, you believe that you're already in lack, it takes a much longer time for you to stay here. And now you're in the midst of this energy right here, okay? You're here, just sitting, hanging out in lack energy. You aren't moving. You're there the whole time because you are ruminating, you're sitting, you're just thinking about how it's just the worst, okay? This is what we do. This is where lack feels like the worst thing in the world. Instead of seeing it as, ooh, okay, my house is dirty right now, but I just had the best time, right? I literally just invited so many people over. They all came. It was just so incredibly fun. And now I get to clean it using my brand new products that I bought. Yay! Right? Maybe not easy, maybe not your favorite thing to do, but it is a way to look at this. Or it's like, oh, okay, you know what? I actually know what I'm going to do next time. Next time, I'm going to do it differently. When I invite everyone over, I'm also going to make sure that every single person washes a dish. Every single person puts it in the dishwasher. I'm going to do it so that I don't have so much left over to clean. Instead of looking at the situation or the problem as an opportunity to do something different, you go about it the same way you always go about every single problem, leaving you in the lack energy for a long time. And then you have to climb your way back out of it as time goes on to finally reach that abundance again. This is the cycle that we're in. This is the cycle that we tend to be in, which is why it feels like we get through or we experience the same thing again and again and again. The only reason why it feels like you're experiencing the same thing again and again and again is because you are handling the downfall the exact same way. And the downfall is subjective. The reality is, and what the divine is trying to teach us here is when you get here, this right here is an opportunity for you to learn, for you to change something, for you to grow, for you to see something from a different perspective. And it is growing you. Because the reality is once you get here, you've gotten to a peak. And this peak is saying, okay, you want more. Maybe when you're here, let's use the cleaning house situation again. While you're here, you're sitting here and you're saying, you know what, this is fantastic, but honestly, I could really use some help. I could use a maid, I could use a cleaning service, I could use somebody that could just like help me out here, a nanny that could help me clean because this is too much house for me, or this is just too much work for me. I need to start putting, some of this work in different areas. I need to start getting some help, right? That is now your new thing. Before it was just, I got to clean the house. Now it's, I need to find some help. So what the universe does is say, you need some help. That's not even a problem. What we're going to do is, in the midst of you asking for help, we're going to bring you to a position where you're going to be able to receive some help. So now your house is dirty again, which means this is the perfect time to ask for help, to look for different ways to get help or more efficient ways to clean. But you're looking at it as, oh my God, this always happens to me. And because you're handling it the same way, you're climbing out of it the same way, you're experiencing abundance the same way, and you're going right back down. And it's the same circle. It's the same cycle. It's the same situation. Here's how we're going to get out of this situation. Now I'm going to do a little drawing here too, right? So we see this. Abundance, lack. I'm going to use the same exact colors. So now we're going to put abundance at the top. We're going to put lack at the bottom, okay? Let's say we're starting at abundance right here. Abundance is here, then abundance starts to move down to lack. However, when you get to lack, okay, it's a little demented, but that's okay, it's fine. When you get here to lack, instead of handling it the same way you did in your cycle consistently, always looking at lack the same way, you start looking at it as an opportunity. You start looking at it as, ooh, okay, cool. I get to be more efficient here. I get to be better here. I get to do things differently here. What starts to happen is you automatically keep the energy that you bought in the abundance in while you're here. So although it may be difficult, although it may not feel the best, you are still in a beautiful high vibrational energy. You're not letting what looks like a problem actually get to you. Instead, you're bouncing back and you're seeing it as an opportunity. Because you're seeing it as an opportunity, you're naturally in the state of abundance. Because you're naturally in the state of abundance, here's what starts to happen. You climb out of lack faster, and instead of it closing back up to where you were before, it now can move into a higher level. This is how we start to move up. So now abundance is different. Instead of you cleaning the house, you now found help. You see what I'm saying? You are now here. And now that you have help, let's say the help that you have is, $50 a week. You have help once a week, you pay this person $50 a week. So now you're thinking to yourself, oh shoot, I just added an expense. Cool, you're now looking at your finances. Your finances bring you back here. Here's the part. Just like your abundance is going up, the lack is also going down. Right? It's getting deeper. So if before you cleaning your house on your own was less expensive, now in order for you to clean your house, you're adding an expense, which means that you have to pay more. That looks like a bigger problem than you had last week. However, that also means it's a bigger opportunity for you to do things differently here. So at this point, in this lack energy, for you to not continue the cycle and just end up back here like, oh, I need help, I don't know if I can pay, or whatever the case is, it's giving you an opportunity to do things a little differently. This is either a situation where now you are manifesting or you are visualizing, let's say, free service. Or even better, you decide, you know what? If I were to buy one of those robots that clean, I wouldn't actually have to pay the $50. I would just pay one large sum of something. And that way it would take away my cleaning for the week. And on top of that, it will give me time back, whatever the case is. So now your energy, the climbing back up, goes towards that goal. So you go ahead and you reach a new abundance. Now the abundance is you got the robot. The robot is working. It actually is helping you. And you just keep this cycle going, because even with the robot, now you got to think about charging it, or you got to think about whatever the case is, or you finally are out of this energy where you have to think about these things and you're now thinking about something else. Another problem that has come over you. Another thing, because that's the thing about life. No matter how abundant you are, no matter how many good things are happening in your life, you're always going to experience a problem. And the cycles that we're in, they're not cycles because you're being punished or the worst of the worst is happening. They're cycles because you keep putting yourself in the same position. You keep handling the problem the same way that you handled it in the past. And every time you experience a problem, you're going about it the same way you've experienced problems. That's the issue. But your cycle is going to happen no matter what. It's just now going to look like, what do we want to call this? A loop-de-loop? It's going to look like a loop-de-loop. So now you're having fun. You're figuring things out. You're learning. You're interested. You're reaching abundance and you're reaching lack. And yes, of course, it is getting deeper problems, but you're becoming more efficient with handling those problems. So now all of these that once looks like problems is now solutions or opportunities to find a solution, which then becomes one of those things where you become a critical thinker. You start looking at things from a different perspective. You start operating from a different perspective. And this is where your true abundance starts to really go all the way up, because you're now in a place where you're not just letting your environment or your situation define who you are. You're actually deciding that you're going to have the opportunity, or you're going to see it as an opportunity, which means that lack actually never feels like lack. Lack actually never feels down or low vibration. It's just a cycle that you're experiencing, and you're excited to get to the next level within that cycle. Think about it as a video game. At the end of the day, you're going to play that video game, play that video game, play that video game until you get to the next level. You got to the next level, you're going to play that until you get to the next level. And it's just fun. It's interesting. Yeah, you reached some challenges. Maybe you died. Maybe you went through whatever. Oh, man, but you are learning. And that's what lack is here to help us do. It's here to help us learn. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to pretend like being in lack or lacking something feels so good. I'm not romanticizing lack, but we do need to become more efficient in it, because while we're manifesting abundance, we're also trying to push away lack. And that is the biggest issue, because at the end of the day, no matter how abundant you become, if you still handle your issues and your problems the exact same way as you always have, you will find yourself in the same position. No matter what. There's no amount of money, no amount of love, no amount of relationships, no amount of self-worth that is going to change that. If you are looking at lack the exact same way, it's going to get you. But if you are looking at lack as a first step to abundance, if you are seeing it and you're saying, okay, whoo, I don't like the way this makes me feel, but this is an opportunity for me to figure something out, for me to do something differently, for me to have something more, for me to expand, for me to go towards something else, for me to look in a different perspective, different way, whatever the case may be. When you start looking at it from that perspective, you start to grow. Your abundance grows. You expand. You become a better version of yourself. Too many people are stuck here. And for a long time, I was stuck here. Abundance, go through some things. Now I'm at lack, and I'm really dealing with lack. And then I hang out in lack for an extremely long time, almost too long. Okay. I'd be in lack just like, oh my God, why is my life like this? Oh my God, God, please help me. All this stuff. And God will help me, right? Because I'm still alive, right? But it's the same old thing. Then I get up here, and while I'm up here, I'm still seeing where there's so many issues and problems, which just brings me right back down here. Now, it's all opportunity. It's not just a cycle that stays in this casual, closed off thing. It's not meant to be one thing. It's not meant to just be closed off. It's meant to go around. It's meant to improve us. It's meant to help us. It's meant to grow us. And that's what your lack is here to do. It's the first step to abundance. As much as we're manifesting and praying and asking for abundance, we need to actually master the low vibration that we don't like and that we run away from. The feelings that we don't like and we run away from. The shame, the fear, the ego, right? Change as a whole. We need to look at that and say, okay, if I truly want what I'm asking for, then I need to be efficient in dealing with the opposite of it. Because if I really, really want wealth, then I really, really need to be efficient in debt. If I really, really want love, then I really got to be okay with judgment. There is always an opposite response or situation to whatever it is that we're dealing with. And we want to run away from those things. We want to say, okay, I don't need that. And trust me, I've done my fair share of dealing with them head on. I've also done my fair share of completely running away and saying, F this. And I found that there is a beautiful middle ground. There is a wonderful middle ground. And I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about it and getting through that with you, because there's a lot of information on abundance. I don't think there's enough information on lack. I don't think there's enough information on scarcity. Yes, it's the shifting of the scarcity mindset. Tap into that mindset. Tap into that nervous system. Change it. And also, in order for us to really master this lifetime, in order for us to really understand what it is that we're going through, there is the need to actually understand that lack has never been against us. It's actually our friend. It's just the friend that tells us the truth. It's the friend that kind of exposes us to the things that we'd rather not necessarily be exposed to. We'd rather just stay in our comfort zone of abundance because this feels and looks good. But this is where the truth lies. This is where the hidden, issues and problems are. And lack says, okay, I'm just going to show you where, what it is that you're asking for doesn't align with this thing, doesn't align with this person, doesn't align with this situation. Hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to kind of like make it as simple as possible because this is something that I don't think it's the hardest to grasp, but I do think it's the hardest to kind of like practice, because at the end of the day, when something happens, when you feel like you're lacking, lack is difficult. And like I said, I was homeless. So I understand, okay, not having anything whatsoever for like 2 years. I get what that looks like. I get what that feels like. That's why I can speak like this. That's why I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because in the midst of being homeless, sleeping on the beach with nothing but one bag and my sister, literally, that was probably the most that I laughed, the most that I smiled, the most grateful I've ever been. It's probably the most abundant I've been within my positive emotions. And we'll get into that another time. But this right here, mastering lack, will have you dominating just about any goal, any situation that you want to dominate. And this is just level 1. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. You can either go ahead and put it in the comments. Make sure you comment. Let me know your thoughts. And if there is a topic or something that you're interested in kind of like seeing a different perspective on, or just getting perspective on, go ahead and email me. That information is in the description box. Email me what it is that you would like me to touch upon, and I will be happy to put it in my queue of ideas and brainstorms for YouTube. Until next time, sending you mad love.